Okay, so first of all, in order to introduce myself, I'm Ryan Muftari, and I'm honored to be the moderator of today's discussion. Tonight is a very, very special night because Mrs. Kadia, yep, coming all the way from San Francisco, founder and current president of Minority Architecture Students. Our topic this evening will be about cultural tolerance and the importance of cultural. Our guest just so happens to be a very, very well-known activist who defends ethnic groups in the US. She will share with us her valuable experiences and her knowledge regarding this topic. Mrs. Kadia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for this lovely introduction, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much, Mr. Khalid, for inviting me. It's an honor myself to be here and talk to you guys. Um, so a little bit about myself. I'm an architecture student. Originally born and raised in Guinea-Conakry in West Africa. I moved to the United States about 9 years ago now, and started architecture school in 2016. I am graduating in the next 2 months, and in 2020, with the help of my partner, who's also an architecture student, we started the NOMAS at my school, which is the National Organization of Minority Architect Students. So NOMA is a bigger umbrella in the architecture world, which is National Organization of Minority Architects. And NOMAS, National Organization of Minority Architect Students, is the student version of that. So we founded the organization in school, and for the last 2 years, we've been hosting events for bringing awareness to minorities and shed light on some of the issues that minorities have been going through, and basically give a floor to minority architects, because architecture really underrepresents minorities. But yeah, can't wait to hear more about what you guys are learning and answer your questions.
Hello. So I just have this question. Did you actually face any difficulties while trying to achieve your goal? And if you did, what's the thing that helped you face those difficulties?
Thanks. I think that's an amazing question. And I assume you're asking in the context of race in America and how people of color are treated, etc. So I would say for myself that I have experienced difficulties, but it's in a very subtle way. I've been very lucky that, I've never been chastised in my face of someone, calling me names in America. But what's one thing that's important to understand about the dynamics with races is that everything is very systematic. So it's more than just one person that, will call you a slur on the streets. It's, for example, my hair, something that's very interesting, that Black people's hairs in America has been always considered as unclean or unprofessional. So there's actually been a law that's been passed 2 weeks ago called the Crown Act that has to prevent any discrimination to happen based on hair, because a lot of people with, braids like mine, or, an afro, or, dreadlocks, sometimes are refused jobs or refused, they can't be accepted in certain positions, or they'll be fired off of a panel. They expect people to, have straight hair because that's what the standard is. So that's something that I've personally been discriminated against. I felt like, I was never really accepted in, serious settings because of the way I presented myself, when it's something that is completely natural by people of color. If we have curly hair, that's just how we is. So it's really important to note that it took a very, very long time. Literally, the law has been passed 2 weeks ago. It's called the Crown Act. Look it up, and that forces people not to discriminate someone because of their hair, and that's especially to protect people of color in America. So that's one example, but I think it's really important to know that racism and how different races are treated is really systematic. So it's not just, someone being mean to you in a store, even though that also happens. You can be walking in a store, just minding your business, and the security guard starts following you, thinking, you are gonna steal something because of the color of your skin. So like that's important to keep in mind. I hope that answers your question, Zainab.
Thank you.
Okay, so maybe we go to Mr. Muad.
Okay, so thank you, Miss, for joining us today. So my question is, do you think that nowadays the world is clueless about cultures?
Do you mind repeating, please? The first part, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I said, do you think that nowadays the world is clueless about cultures?
So if I heard correctly, you're asking about if many cultures are clueless about other cultures, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's definitely a thing. I think a lot of people are ignorant of what other cultures are like, and I think it's not necessarily coming from a bad place, like a lot of people genuinely don't know. So for example, the N word in the United States is a slur, and despite it being present in a lot of popular culture, it's not okay to say that word out loud. And I think if you don't know, and you listen to a lot of hip hop music and you hear some slurs in the music and you repeat it, that can be very offensive to someone else. Or someone like someone who can be from a Arab country can go to school and be wearing a hijab, and people are going to judge them because they don't know what it means to wear a hijab. Then they'll be like pointing their fingers out. So I think like more than just for Black people and Black culture, I think it's really important to communicate and ask questions if someone comes from a culture that you don't know of, and not be scared, because it's better to ask someone and treat them properly than assume their culture, or assume that their culture is the same as you, and offend them in a way. So I think there's definitely some ignorance that comes with meeting someone from a culture you've never met before. And I think there's also a lot of bias and a lot of prejudice. For example, I don't know, we've seen with the coronavirus these past couple of years that there's been a lot of attacks on Asian people, for example, and they will be like, oh, you brought corona and it came from your country, when it's simply not true. It's not their fault, at least, that the virus has spread all over the world. So you have to be careful if you approach someone from a different culture, and keeping an open mind and being willing to learn and ask questions is always really important. So it does exist, but it's not a bad thing. I think it's just an opportunity to learn more about each other, but respectfully.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So, Si Mohammed, Tasi, can you keep moderating? Because I see a lot of students online are raising their hands. So that's going to be great.
Exciting.
For sure, teacher. All right. So I think right now we go to Mrs. Suad Miloki. The floor is yours.
Yes, hello. I have a question. I suppose that your association is a private association to promote minorities in the society. And my question is, do the authorities make some actions for the integration of minorities, for diversity in the society? Because if I see the Declaration of United Nations of Human Rights, we have article everybody is same and equal. So do the authorities make some action, specific action for that?
That's a very interesting question. Yeah. So what's important to learn about the United States in particular is that it's a country that's been built upon a lot of conflicts, So it's very, how can I say this? Because of slavery and then segregation and then, the killing of many Native American when they first arrived to the land. There's a lot of things that are just naturally part of like the culture in America. So racism today is just like a phenomenon that's has trickled down from the years of slavery. Like it's not an independent entity. It's just the result of so many years of history of segregation and oppression and, you know, the civil rights movement of the 60s. So it's really important to learn about where and why something's happened, because you're asking about the authorities. A lot of times in America, the authorities are actually the carriers of racism against minorities. I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about police brutality and a lot of killing that's been happening in America of innocent people on the streets. And that comes from the fact that the police in America was actually originally designed to catch slaves, you know, to actually capture Black people that they saw on the streets. So that's kind of in the culture of the police to an extent. So I think it's very important for the future. And I know there's in the past couple of years, there've been, for example, the Crown Act, the law that I mentioned earlier, there's definitely been progress, but it's important that the progress continues to really reform these biases from the core of society, especially in America, because it's not just something that can be easily changed by a law, because some laws say it's illegal to, yes, it's on paper, everybody's equal, but when it comes to practice, you know, you will see in America, a white person walking and they will not be bothered, or they will see a Black person walking on the same street, same day, same time, but the police will have some prejudice about them and will be directly more Mephian, you know? So I think there's a lot of work still to be done to like break our biases of what we think about people and the prejudice we have, because it's I don't know, it's very damaging. It's been very damaging to society so far. And we have to think about how slavery and segregation and, you know, the civil rights movements were just 60 years ago. And when slavery was 400 years ago. So it's gonna take a lot of time to dismantle a lot of the embedded parts of society like such, but there's been a lot of progress, definitely. I hope that answers your question, Suad.
Thank you very much.